Hey, this is Mike from AFP. Today I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about the proposal process for AFP ICON presentations. So we've just come out of a really successful AFP ICON down in San Antonio. And so the next step for us is to look at proposals for presentations at next year's AFP ICON, which is going to be in Baltimore, March 29 through 31. So with me today, I have Kendal Joyner, who is our Director of Professional Development. And I'd like to ask you a couple questions, Kendal, because you're running this piece of the organization. And I thought that based on some questions that I've received, I would relay them to you and you give us your thoughts on them. So we have just passed the deadline for submitting proposals for next year's ICON.
Yes.
How many did we receive? Maybe what, a dozen or so?
I think it was a few more than a dozen.
Okay.
Mike. We received more than 300 proposals from across our network. The majority of those, the overwhelming majority of those, are for our traditional education sessions held during conference. But we also received a handful of proposals for our pre-conference sessions, which are held the 2 days preceding conference.
Okay. And so out of all those proposals we received, how many is it possible for us to accept? So in other words, how many slots are there that we need to find speakers for?
That's a good question, Mike. Overall, there are typically about 100 education session slots during ICON. About 75 of those will be covered or will be slotted through the proposal process. The remaining 25 or so sessions are set aside for AFP sponsors, organizational partners, and if there are any specific topics that AFP wants to focus on, like ethics, like inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, policy, those types of things which are critically important to AFP.
Okay, so that means that we have approximately 4 times as many proposals as we actually have slots for.
That's correct.
So how does that work? How do we sort through that and wind up with the exact number of proposals?
Well, it is a process that we go through. We engage our ICON Education Advisory Committee, which is a group of volunteers from across the AFP network. They are charged with reviewing the proposals which come in. They review all the proposals which come in. And they're looking at things like quality of the proposals, relevance to the topic of fundraising, or relevance to the profession. They're looking at whether there's any engagement and interactivity in the proposals, which is critically important. They're looking at diversity of topics. So there are a variety of factors that they are looking at, that they're considering when they're reviewing the proposals. So the Education Advisory Committee reviews the proposals. Then they come to the AFP Global offices here in Arlington, Virginia in June for 3 days. And they hunker down and spend those 3 days with us.
Yeah, I remember when they were here. They were very, very busy.
Yes, very busy, very engaged, and very excited about the process. But they hunker down and they discuss their reviews, and then they make their recommendations on those 75 slotted sessions that we have available.
Okay, so 2 questions from that. So one is, who do they make the recommendation to? And then the second one is, how do you become a member of that committee? Because obviously that committee of volunteers, they have a lot of say, if you will, on what these sessions are going to look like. So in either order, just take a crack at those 2 questions, because I've had those questions posed to me.
So the committee is made up of volunteers. So people come through the traditional AFP committee nomination process, which typically occurs towards the latter part of each calendar year. We also take people on the committee through a recommendations process. So if people have served on the committee in previous years, they may make referrals to other people where they can explain the process and the commitment that's required in order to be involved and be a productive member of this committee.
Okay, great. And so then when they have their recommendations, who do they make those recommendations to? And then what happens next?
So the committee makes the recommendations to AFP Global staff.
Okay.
The staff will review those recommendations, and then those proposals that we would like to move forward, we move forward and invite those individuals to speak at conference.
Okay, so some people will say, well, that means basically that AFP staff picks what the sessions are and who the speakers are. that doesn't seem like the way that it should be. So I can't imagine that's actually the case.
So actually, you're right, Mike. The AFP, the committee serves in an advisory function.
Yeah.
So they're making the recommendations to us. I cannot think of a time in my time here at AFP Global that we haven't taken a recommendation of the committee. We really value the recommendation of the committee because they're the ones on the front lines in the profession doing the work of fundraising every day. So their perspective is very important to us.
Yeah, no, I can understand it. They're putting a lot of time and energy into this process. So, okay, so then we have these sessions selected. What happens next? Who goes out to the speakers? Pretty much all the speakers accept them. What's that next step?
So after the committee makes their recommendations and staff kind of validates them, we will inform everyone who applied or submitted a proposal. That will occur by the end of August of this year. We'll inform everyone and we'll await whether people accept their invitation to speak or not. In the overwhelming majority of the cases, people do accept their invitations to speak.
Because they've applied.
They've applied,
right?
Right? There may be a couple of instances where people do not accept, and that's more than likely based on scheduling.
Yeah, sure. Something's come up.
Something's come up, yes.
Got it. Okay.
So we'll inform people of their decisions, await their confirmation, and then we will make public the sessions on the AFP conference website by the end of December of this year.
Okay. So another question that I get, and my goal here is to be very, very transparent about the process. So another question that I've received is, well, if there are only, and we'll go with the 75 slots that you talk about as an example, as an average, if there are only 75 slots, how is it possible that I'm seeing a speaker more than once?
Good question, Mike. So as the committee is making the recommendations to staff on the sessions that they'll be selecting, they're looking at a variety of factors. So first and foremost is the quality of the proposals. But let's set aside and say the ones that have been recommended are all of quality, all of high quality.
Yep.
Then we're looking at the comparison. We're looking at the knowledge domains and the fundraising knowledge domains that are aligned with the CFRE credentialing exam.
What's a knowledge domain for those of us that don't know that inside baseball lingo?
Knowledge domains are the 6 areas of focus that CFRE uses to administer the CFRE credentialing exam.
Okay, all right.
So we are looking at the percentage of questions on the CFRE exam related to each of those individual 6 knowledge domains. Okay. And then we're trying to align the number of sessions at ICON with that percentage of knowledge domains within the CFRE exam. So for instance, securing the gift has a larger number of questions in the CFRE exam than, say, volunteer involvement. So when it comes to our proposals and the sessions at ICON, we're typically going to work to have more securing the gift proposals or sessions with that track compared to the volunteer involvement track. So we try to align them proportionally in the best way we can.
Great.
Still maintaining quality proposals.
Okay, so you would have the situation where within one of these tracks, we might not have enough speakers because not enough proposals have been submitted within that track. And so we might look to someone who either has submitted a proposal in more than one track, and I want to come back to that question in a second, and we may look for someone that we know who does something in that track, but this is an opportunity for them to have a second slot, if you will.
Yes, that's correct.
Great. So then the question that I also get asked is, when all of these are submitted, what's the evaluation process afterwards?
Can you say a little more, Mike?
Sure. So we go through the conference. Conference is now behind us. How do we evaluate how the speakers did? And if there are speakers that when they submit next time, that we're interested in bringing them back, or it just didn't resonate and we want to give that feedback to the speaker?
Good question. Okay, I got you. So each session, there's a session evaluation at ICON. This year we moved to doing all of our session evaluations on the conference app. Very exciting, and hopefully make it a lot easier for participants to complete the evaluation. So we take the evaluation data, we compile it, and we will share that evaluation data with the committee as they are considering the proposals. So the evaluations look at quality of the session. They look at the PowerPoint materials and how helpful they were. They look at the quality of the speaker and was that speaker prepared, and would they recommend that speaker again for next year or a subsequent ICON conference. So that evaluation data is shared with the committee and they use that when considering proposals.
Okay. So I think my last question is, if I want to be a presenter, and I know we have all these domain tracks, how many proposals can I submit? Do you have a limit, or could I submit 10 proposals?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Mike. This year, for the 2020 AFP ICON, we kind of instituted a maximum of 2 proposals per speaker.
Okay.
We kind of heard the feedback from the sector and from our community.
What was that feedback?
The feedback was that, particularly related to your question that you asked earlier, Mike, about there's some speakers who get to speak 4 times, and there's others who don't get to speak at all.
Okay.
And how do we make that determination? So in thinking about and working to ensure a diverse variety of speakers from backgrounds and perspectives, we put in place that you can only submit proposals in a maximum of 2 sessions for AFP ICON. So that begins with the 2020 AFP ICON, this proposal process. So with this limit that we've put in place, we hope to have a broader and more diverse array of speakers with a variety of different backgrounds and experiences to share with you, our AFP members.
Great. Well, thanks for answering my questions.
Sure.
If you're still watching this, I'm going to be assuming that you are someone who wants to submit a proposal and you think that this has hopefully been valuable. What I've tried to do with Kendal here is to be very transparent. I had a lot of questions and I didn't want to just answer them on a one-off basis, but I wanted to get together with Kendal and create a video that you can watch at any time and really learn about how this process works. So if you have questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Kendal.Joyner at afpglobal.org, or to myself, Mike.Geiger at afpglobal.org. So thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you in Baltimore next year.